Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Riverdale. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with everything related to Edgar and the farm. I was so certain that Kevin was so full of shit last episode. I was just like, nah, he's lying. And it's like, no, turned out to be super correct. Like, obviously, it's so interesting too, because like now that we're seeing Edgar again, he went, because like at least last season, it seemed like, oh, he was some cool, calm and collected, like, you know, cult leader. Whereas just like, oh, he seemed like he was so in control. This, he seems so erratic. And I guess it makes sense because he's kind of against the fence, and it's just kind of like, oh, like the pretenses he put up are kind of like falling apart. So it was kind of interesting for him to like, nah, he's basically kind of holding everyone hostage. But all those people, well, at least some of them, probably, yeah, there are definitely some people who seem like they're still kind of brainwashed in the situation of being like under his control and whatnot. But nevertheless, because I kept always waiting for like the other shoe to drop in certain regards, like when Polly shows up with the bomb strapped to her chest and everything, I'm like, is this part of this deception or something like that? But it's like, nope. It's also interesting to see Betty kind of just like handle business herself. She went to Veronica, got the money herself. She went to Tony to get, you know, the fake IDs, or at least blank ones, and handled the bus situation herself. But nevertheless, it was all a trap and everything. But he's still kind of keeping up that holier than thou thing of like, oh, if only you had taken in the lessons I was trying to get to. Like I said, he just seems like a raving lunatic now. But luckily, we see Alice is there, because obviously when Betty wakes up, it's like, oh, Alice is there, she's okay. So it's like, okay. So also the whole thing about a rocket, I'm like, wait, what is that? It's like, I was like, are we bullshitting here, or are we talking about a legitimate rocket? Turns out there's a legitimate rocket, which I'm like, I think you are. I think this is just supposed to show the fact is that you are so crazed that you have gone to the point of legitimately losing your mind for him to do that. We ended up finding out at least one of the people who lost her fingers was Principal Weatherby, which I'm wondering, does that mean he's going to be replacing the new Principal Honey? Probably not, because it's just like, well, you need to be deprogrammed. I mean, it seems like you're already in that stage, but it's also, you actually kind of feel bad because like Edgar kept thinking that he was the mole. I wonder what made him think it was Weatherby, but regardless, the fact is, I mean, it all kind of comes full circle because it's like, well, Alice was never under his control. It was all for the sake of saving Polly and removing her from the whole situation. So it's almost, I mean, to be fair, I think it'd be a little bit more befitting if it was actually Betty who did it. I guess in certain regards it just would fit better. I mean, I guess you can also make the argument if she did do it, it'd be kind of pushing her down that route of kind of following in her dad's footsteps. Not to the same extent, but you know, obviously we know that Betty does have a dark side. It hasn't really surfaced too much, you know, subsequently, since I feel like season 2 was the last season it really surfaced, like her darker side, because I guess you can make the argument anytime she met up with her dad, she was kind of giving into her darker side a little bit more. But regardless, but the fact, I think it's still symbolic that it is, you know, Alice that finished off Edgar, but still there's just something, I mean, well, in the grand scheme of things, I'm skipping around here, but obviously at the end it's like, oh, there's something else set up, so it's like, this whole Edgar situation, I doubt is done, because there's a whole Evelyn thing, because, you know, I'm sure she's going to prison for a long time, and obviously Polly's taking everything to kind of get deprogrammed, so I'm sure that's going to apply to a lot of people. Obviously Fang's definitely going to have to get deprogrammed, and obviously, you know, I guess Kevin is good. That's what I thought was kind of interesting. Last episode we had the time skip to spring, and they're looking for Jughead, that Betty and Kevin were together. So I guess that should have been, but I thought maybe, I don't know, maybe it was like he was lying to her, but the situation never revealed that he was, I don't know, like I just assumed because of the way Kevin was acting last episode that I thought like he was still kind of being sucked in, so I thought it was like, oh, everything he's saying is total bullshit. No, that'd be the case, but I don't know, not unless we end up finding out. I don't know, because I keep expecting things not to be what we think it is. I feel like, there's going to be some twist at that where like, oh, Edgar's actually alive, that this was some huge performance or something like that. Which I'm assuming he's dead, but, you know. Then there's also the whole Charles situation. Well, now that your mom's back, Edgar's been taken down, you know, I'm sure like you got other assignments, but I'm sure he's going to make an excuse to stick around in Riverdale. I wonder if he's going to tie into like the Hiram Lodge story arc in any shape or form. I mean, him being FBI and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, that was his main reason for sticking around, but now he'll, well, more time with his family. Well, he's got a sister and some, Polly's kids to be around. Well, he's got two sisters and, Polly's kids to be around. So there's a lot of family kind of catch up on it in that regard. So I don't know. I'm curious. Well, because let's also not forget too, another angle that has to be thought of too. He's also FP's kid. So FP hasn't really had any time with him, so maybe that'll be kind of a thing of like him getting to know his dad, which is also interesting too when you actually think about it. I didn't even think about it until I was like, right, FP's, sheriff now, so it's kind of like, oh, they're both in law enforcement, so that'd be interesting. It's like, well, your dad was kind of, with a gang for a while, but now he's law enforcement, but I don't know. I didn't even, I let that slip on because I was thinking for a second, like, was Hal his dad? I was like, no, his dad was, FP. So... right? Or am I making that up? I'm pretty sure that wasn't that the thing. I'm blanking already. I was saying that so like I was so 100% sure. Now I'm questioning myself whether that is the case or not. Regardless, there's a lot of family time to be caught up with, even if I'm 100% wrong about that. But I could swear like FP is his dad, right? Maybe, like I said, maybe I'm just being stupid. Regardless, I'm kind of assuming that tape was like a last will and testament that was meant to be, but I'm curious, like, why was it specifically sent to Betty? Maybe it's like a last ha, I got something up my sleeve. But also, like I said, I mean, I'm assuming Evelyn got captured, but we might get the twist of like, oh, Evelyn ended up escaping, or like some like, because like no one else is a part of the cult anymore, so I'm like, the only one that's left is her, because I'm about to say, hopefully it doesn't turn a darker angle, like, oh, mass suicide type of thing. But, we'll have to wait and see in that regard. So there's that side of things. Then there's everything with Jughead at the new school. Lo and behold, run into a familiar face, Moose, or rather, Marmaduke. I never would have expected that comment. I was like, I saw it was like, he's like, Jughead? I was like, Moose! And he kind of had the same reaction. I was like, holy shit, dude, that's awesome. I mean, to be fair, after everything you went through last season, yeah, you needed a fresh start. You kind of deserve one. So... I like them kind of keeping it hush-hush, and then, like, Brett kind of being a dick. Like, when Jughead's like, no, it was good. He was like, no, good. I could take the criticism. And it's like, well, this, and this. And he's basically like, fuck you. Your writing is trash, Jughead. It's like, he's going in, and it's like, holy crap. You cannot take criticism, which I can't take criticism well. That's why, so I know that I can't take criticism well. So that's why I'm like, he tries to look like he's holier down and that he's bad, That's like, oh no, you can say whatever you got to say, peasant. And obviously even Donna kind of warns him later on. It's like, yeah, you might not want to get on his bad side, because he won't physically do anything to you, but he might do something on a psychological angle. And obviously he starts tearing into Jughead later on, talking about everything, what Jughead came from, obviously being part of the Serpent, and your mom leaving you behind, and the fact is your 13-year-old sister's kind of caught up in your mom's criminal activities, and Jughead kind of snatches him up and is like, yo, the fact of the matter is you need to find something a little more constructive. How about you just focus on your writing rather than start trying to create this drama in this story rather than trying to create it with me. I was like, yo, and everyone else is kind of looking like, yo, and you could tell Brett got a little shook because but it was just, it's like, yeah, it's like, don't underestimate Jughead. Jughead's been through a lot, and it's like, yeah, you think I'm kind of like, oh, this person from like this bad, neighborhood that all I've been through. And it's like, yeah, I've been through a lot. So it's like, don't push me, which, kind of didn't matter in the end because both of them came in the last place. So I'm wondering, I guess maybe it's just Jughead couldn't focus on his story like he needed to, and Home Dude was so busy messing with Jughead, he couldn't come up with a good story. I don't know. Maybe that situation just kind of led to them just being like, it just kind of stifled their creativity. But it seems like Donna won. But then later on we see that like someone put out some notices, flyers and stuff talking about Moose, revealing everything that he basically tried to hide from. Obviously, Jughead's thinking like, oh, it's Brett, and it's got to be him because he's such a dick. This is that psychological warfare. But there's a part of me, once again, conspiracy hat on. What if it's Donna? I mean, we know Donna and Moose were like getting busy, but like, she could be trying to remove Brett, and just because like, she could be playing her own psychological game. She's trying to manipulate Jughead and him into kind of getting into a war just for her own amusement. Because we are in kind of a bit of a preppy school, which obviously that's kind of like the stereotype of just kind of like there's a whole bunch of rich kids who get whatever they want, so they get a little egotistical and like venomous. So it's just kind of like, oh, they start getting a little more sadistic. So that could be the angle they're going with. Once again, this is me just putting on conspiracy. It could just be straight up like, nah, it is Britain. Like, he's a dick, you know? So I'm interested to see where things kind of take us in that storyline. Another storyline in this episode is the whole Archie situation of the, gym trying to turn it into, a youth center, essentially, to kind of help out, because obviously for Mad Dog is his brother's kind of going to a specific area and there's people running drugs and stuff like that, and he doesn't want his little brother to get caught up in that. But obviously Archie had plans to turn the gym into that, but obviously losing his dad, it kind of turned everything a little sideways. But it's like, nah, we're going to get back to that because got to do a lot of good. But they need to raise a lot of money if they want to be able to like make the modifications and make the gym accessible as a place to be, a center. And I love that. Obviously, Archie doesn't want to take the money from Veronica, but they do a little car wash and everything, and it's the boys all shirtless and everything. I almost halfway expected Kevin to be shirtless too, but it's like, nah, like, I guess just other, the main ones being Reggie, Archie, and Mad Dog. It almost seemed weird because you have Kevin and Veronica counting up the money, so it's almost like they're pimping them out. But I guess like when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, in a twisted way, you are basically pimping people out, like under the circumstances of car washing like that, because it's like, ooh, look at this eye candy while your car is being washed. It's like, look at these bodies being, I mean on both spectrums of whether it's ladies washing it or dudes washing it, and it's like, it is kind of almost like a pimp someone else service. It's weird. I don't know why my mom, just because when they're counting the money made me think that's pimping to a certain extent. I don't know why. That's just like where my mind went with the whole situation. I love it. It's like, oh, how much money do we make? It's like, oh, we raised over $4,000. And you're like, and you have like Archie being like, oh, 4,000, over 4,000, that's great. And she's like, no, 400. I'm like, jeez, wow. And it's like, yep. Veronica's like, the plan didn't go as well as I thought it would be, but still, I thought it was kind of interesting where Archie had told Mad Dog, like, obviously, his brother kind of got jumped by those dudes just because he, it's like, even though my brother refused to do what they asked him to, he wasn't even near the arcade, they still jumped him because he said no. And it's like, let's go take care of him. But Archie was like, no, the fact of the matter is, you're looking after your grandma and you're looking after your brother. You do something like this, you can get arrested and you'll be taken away, and they rely on you. So we'll find another way. We'll let the center be that centerfold. But obviously Archie kind of goes back on his own words because he decides to handle things himself, going all vigilante. Which we've seen over the course of the series. Obviously, Archie can handle himself in a fight. It got pretty roughed up. But for him, it was like, because obviously he didn't want to bring Mad Dog or anyone else into this because it's like, nah, he's fighting for too much. And I think the sad thing is, in a way, Archie probably feels like he probably doesn't, like in the case of like him versus Mad Dog, it's like, I have like less to lose than Mad Dog does. Like, Mad Dog could lose everything, so I think that's why Archie, but also because he wants to help out in whatever way he can. And I think that's always been Archie's thing of like crossing the line, but he's always had the best of intention. Obviously he kind of lost himself along the way, but I think this is a moment of, nah, I'm doing I might do a little wrong, to do a lot of right, but that, obviously that's a slippery slope for Archie. But I think this is a case of like, no, I'm gonna do the right thing, because obviously his mom is like, let's go back to Chicago, and he's like, no, I'm gonna stay in Riverdale. She's like, the center, you're dumping a whole bunch of money. Like, the fact is, you can't save Riverdale. The fact is, all the crime, all that's happened here. But he's like, the fact is, that's the difference between you and me, Mom. Like, you couldn't be in Riverdale, she says it's because she couldn't find a job, but maybe because she kind of saw, to be fair, like, Riverdale's always had an ugly side to it. It isn't just over the course of this series. Like, every time we kind of venture to the past, we find out that there's been more and more of a dark stain on Riverdale. And the fact is, it's for Archie, it's like, my dad believed in this town. Like, the fact of the matter is, he believed in it, and so do I. I'm going to fight for it. I'm not going to give up on it. So that's what kind of inspired him to do that. Obviously, he got the money, and it's like, oh, let's use this money. But it's like, no, it's dirty money. Let's launder it. Which even Veronica's like, no. You do this, you start once again going down that slippery slope as I was talking about. So Veronica's like, don't be so prideful. Let me help. And because I am rewatching Breaking Bad right now, If you are curious, I'm in the middle of season 4. The reason why is just because I wanted to rewatch it before I watch El Camino. I don't really need to, I'm sure, but it's just like the anal retentive side of me is like, no, I need to be fully remember everything's plot-wise before I go into El Camino. That's just me. So, but regardless, it just makes me think of Walter White, where it's just kind of like, you could have asked for help, but you're too prideful, and it's just like, oh, and I did not realize how much his damn pride came up over the course of that show, and I'm just in season 4, I say just in season 4, but regardless, I'm going on a whole tangent. It just kind of reminded me of that, but Archie was actually willing to listen, unlike Walter, so obviously, there's a big difference between Archie, Andrews, and Walter White, so, but regardless, Archie was willing to take, Veronica's help, and so we do see, because the fact of the matter is his mom is like, I'm going to start working free bono, she's going to change, I forgot what nonprofit, the gym is going to be a nonprofit, that way they don't have to pay taxes, they don't have to follow, like, the same regulations that they probably would have had to before, and she's going to be there to help out because it's something Veronica had said, it's like, I'm not dumping this money into the gym. I'm putting it in Archie because I believe in him, because he makes me believe in myself, so I thought, and I think probably that inspired, I was literally about to call her Molly Ringwald, inspired his mom because, for her, she probably, when she sees him, it's like she probably sees so much of Fred, because she even said it herself, because he's like, yeah, I don't know how to do all that stuff to make it labeled as like a nonprofit and stuff like that. She's like, it's okay, your dad was literally the same way. It's like, I'll handle everything. So I thought that was kind of a nice way, and it's like, you focus more on obviously going to college, but also using this center to help so many kids out, because she saw firsthand, on like, she sees Mad Dog with some of the kids, and it's like, oh, so this center is going to do good, and I believe in what Archie believes, and he believes in this, and I believe in him, so I thought that was kind of a nice element to it. Obviously, there's a whole situation with Veronica, the fact that she comes back home and is like, oh, who's waiting for her? And lo and behold, oh, it's Daddy. I'm like, how the hell are you out of prison? She literally asked that question. She's like, oh, I own a prison. I kind of come and go when I want to. It's like, okay. And it's like, you're the villain who just, it's like trying to put, like, it's like Batman locking up any villain in Arkham. It's like, they'll get out eventually, and they'll get put back in Arkham, and they'll get out eventually. It's just kind of like, almost like is there a point? Because it's like, he's too damn powerful. It did, because it turns out the reason why he broke out, I mean, I'm sure there's like other things he probably did while he was out too, but more so than anything, he heard that, Veronica was going to change her name, which obviously she was going to use her mom's maiden name, obviously, but she got reluctant because there's a part of her that's, because I think being a Lodge is part of her identity. She's been a Lodge all her life, so to kind of take there's a part of her that, there's a lot of history to this name, but at the same time, there's good history with being Veronica, Lodge, so it comes with the good and the bad. But her dad brings up the fact is that Lodge isn't his original name, because his name is Jaime Luna, and he wanted to kind of be his own man and kind of get away from, like, because the Luna family was looked down terribly in Riverdale. It's just like, oh, kind of low on the scale side of things, and so he changed his name to Lodge, and it's like his dad got super pissed and beat him, but he like, oh, I didn't realize what it meant until this moment now where you're threatening to change your name. Because for him, it's like, it's almost like this thing of like, how dare you turn against me? This is like you saying you don't want that last name mean you don't want me. And I'm kind of like, this name that I hold with so much pride that you, especially, you can definitely say in Hiram's case of like, I built so much as a Lodge, and you want to besmirch the Lodge name by changing. It's like, but even if you do that, it doesn't matter. You've done terrible things. You will always be a Lodge bloodline-wise. You can't wash that away, so that's kind of interesting. But she confronts her dad later on, and it's like, oh, I'm not going to be Gomez like my mom. I'm going to be Luna. And just to spite her dad in the biggest way. I think that's probably what a lot of this season is going to be, like Veronica doing a lot of stuff to spite both her parents. Because it's like, oh, you need money? Oh, give those Fabergé eggs to my mom's. It's like, are you sure about it? It's like, Veronica's probably like, yeah, go ahead. My mom's in prison. Who cares? She's really kind of stretching her independence, now that they're kind of away. Like I said, last episode, she kind of made a pretty big stance on where she stands and everything. So, obviously, hearing that she's changing the name to Luna, obviously, because I think even she had gone Gomez, it still would have pissed him off, but it's an even more spiteful thing because obviously, like, he because his dad made such a point of, like, oh, you taking, the lodge name rather than keeping my name, Luna, but now it's like, not only are you changing your name, you're also taking my original name, and it's just, I don't know. Maybe that's something we'll kind of dive into a little bit more of Hiram's past. I mean, I guess we haven't dived too deeply into. I mean, obviously last season we kind of dived into the Midnight Club, which included Hermione, and which we picked up some stuff here and there when it comes to Hiram and his gangster side of things. But I'm curious, this is going to be like this might be a season of Veronica learning even more about her family because she's learned a little bit here and there about both sides in actuality. So I'm curious what that kind of means going forward. So. A lot of interesting things. Like I said, I'm curious to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.